Hi everybody, welcome to Stashblaster Quilts. My name's Maria Spatelnik, and I'm here to help you make more quilts in less time with less stress. Hi everybody, welcome to Stashblaster Quilts. Wait a minute here. Some new tech changes have happened, and so I was hearing myself talking to you. So anyway, so that should be fixed. My son set this up, so this should be much cleaner, much clearer, and easier for me to manage. But I'm not sure everything is working the way it should. So if somebody could let me know if you can hear everything and if you're seeing my face at this point, that would be very helpful. Anyway, so the chat is in a different place and it's all set up slightly differently. So here's hoping that this works. Anyway, so welcome back. The last 2 weeks have been a little strange here. Of course, I seem to say that more days than not. So I suppose if everything goes smoothly and normally, then that would be the strange day. Not really sure, but that's okay. You know, we live in creative and chaos and wild and weird and wacky times, and I am a woman of my times. So anyway, just so you can see, it does say life is short by the fabric. As a professional organizer, I am not encouraging you to go crazy on that, but it's a sentiment we all understand. I got this shirt as part of our quilt camp that we had. We had door prizes, and this was the door prize that I chose. I was lucky I was one of the relatively early ones, so I got to have something fun like this rather than something like a water bottle or something. There were not very many things that I would have taken, so I got to have something fun like this rather than something like a water bottle or Hey Judy. There were not very many things that I would so since that was the case, I was glad that it got picked earlier. I just wouldn't have taken anything. But a quilting related black shirt is always a good option. So this is what I got. The last couple of weeks, I have not done any sewing on my son's quilt. This is what I got. I haven't even double checked the numbers for how many more of whichever colors I need because I've been kind of busy. I haven't even double checked the numbers. I'm going to show you the mock-up of the skirt that I made. The one that I'm going to be wearing on my trip is actually set up and ready to go for Friday. So you're not going to get to see that one today. But I can tell you the changes that I did. So this is a split side skirt. You're not going to get to see that. The reason that I did this, and I saw this on the Stitchery with Charlie Nebe, N-E-B-E. She also has a channel with her own name. She does almost everything out of knit, but she's a lot of fun and she's a little wacky too. So I enjoy having her on in my background when I'm doing other things. But she's done a ton of split-sided skirts, she's a lot of fun and she's dresses, pinafores, pants. Split-sided pants, who knew? She's done a ton of split-sided and so dresses, pinafores, pants, split-sided pants, who knew? Okay, hopefully that fixed it. It should be it's possible that you were picking up the things going through my computer. So Judy, can you tell me if that's better? So anyway, so yes, she does split-sided stuff. So logged off and came back. I think it's an echo. Is it still happening? Anyway, there's a delay. Just so you know, when we do this, there is okay, much better, good. There is a delay from when it's filmed and gets up onto YouTube and then comes out to you. Okay, so Judy's saying it's not better. Can anyone else test this for me? And let me know if you're hearing a lot of weirdness. Because the only thing that should be recording is the camera that you're seeing right now. Right, I'll have to wait. Anyway, so there's this delay. So when I ask a question to you, it takes a bit to get to you. And then you respond, and it takes a bit to go up through YouTube and get back to the chat for me. So that's why there's a delay. So let me talk about the split-sided skirt. So there's two pieces to it. There's a front and a back. And the idea is it's fully adjustable because my weight can swing 20 pounds at the drop of a hat. And so this is my cargo skirt that I've designed for travel because I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling again this year. And especially on our trip to England, I'm going to be pushing Scott around potentially in wheelchairs and things like that, not having an additional purse to deal with, but still being protected from pickpockets is something that I wanted to make sure I covered. So this is the inside back of the skirt. You put this on, and in this case, I made the straps long enough that they can Velcro. So these Velcro on, and my pockets are huge. This is the pocket that you're seeing here, okay? And inside the pocket, I put other pockets. So I'm going to try and turn this inside out, which is not going to go particularly easily because it is stitched down here. Okay, so I have, I don't know if I can turn it out enough to show you what I put in. Sorry about this. I know that it's hard when you're, and it's right sides out. So I'll tell you what, let me switch cameras. This will also change the microphone, so we can test to see if you're getting the microphone on camera 3. Okay, so here's the skirt, and I put a pouch pocket, just a regular open hole, basically, for my cell phone in the bottom of the skirt in each of them. And then I also put a Velcro flap pocket in each side, the right size for a passport. Now, in one, it opens, let me draw back just a little bit. It'll be better. It's actually horizontal. So when I reach my hand in this way, I can flip open the flap and pull out the passport rather than having to go down into the pocket and do that. The theory worked great. However, I had not left quite enough room. I'm going to turn this back right side out, which I know you're looking at the outside, but it's this way so that when there's a gap in the skirt, you see the right side out fabric here, and it helps hide where the pocket is. When you put your hand in this way, because the pocket's so deep, it was a little short here. So one of the changes that I made is I made the pockets even bigger, and I put I made this opening larger. I'm sorry, it goes this way. I made the opening larger, and I faced it so that it was a finished edge. One thing that I'm not a huge fan of is unfinished edges on my outfits because they fray all over the place. So in this one, some of it was French seamed and some of it wasn't because I couldn't figure out how to do some of the French seaming the first time with the spacings that I had. So anyway, so you put this on, and the pockets actually stick out sideways, so you can see that right here. Okay, there's nothing underneath it. And it goes into the waistband, and then this gets closed in the front. And then you take the front waistband and you bring it around to the back. And in this case, there's eyelets so that it can be laced at any distance. The front also has eyelets. There's also got the Velcro because it just happened to be extra large. Because I was learning, it was a mock-up, you know, it is what it is. But this has eyelets so that this will also flex to whatever side I need it to be. And then when you get the two halves done, the one with the pockets and then the one that doesn't, at the very end, you sew up from the pocket down to the bottom to make the bottom of the skirt so that while you're walking, they don't flop apart separately. Because you wouldn't want your skirt to go whee in the front, right? You want it to stay down. So you just stitch the bottom part together on both sides. You have full adjustability, giant pockets, and it'll stay down. So I worked on this at Quilt Camp the last day, which is kind of funny because I do so much with the teeny tiny little pieces. The first 2 days, the largest piece I was working with was 1 by 2.5. And so, because that was one of the pieces for my son's quilt. So I spent 2 solid days working on his quilt, which is why I didn't feel bad not doing it the last 2 weeks. But the last day, I took this in. I have never made a skirt for myself before. This was the first one. I learned a lot, and I made a lot of changes for the second one that I made. But one of the reasons that I did it was because I've had people tell me that they think I'm phobic against larger size pieces because I'm always doing tiny stuff. There's a lot of reasons for that. But because that's what I'm known for, I took it in on Tuesday to our guild and I showed everybody, no, I can do this. Not only did I do one skirt, but I did a second skirt. That one is actually in the other room for prep for the travel that I'm doing on Fridays. So it's like, okay, I didn't bring it in today. I can, if you want to see it, email me, mail@stashblasterquilts.com. And the next time I'm on, I will show you the upgraded version. But anyway, so some alterations that I made. I did put in stabilizer in this one, but it felt really stiff, so I didn't put it in the second one. It needs the stabilizer. What I think I'll do is, since the one I put in is a heavy duty, I think I'll put a light stabilizer in. And because it was so hard to turn the waistband with the stabilizer because it was sticking to itself, I think what I'll do is I'll put the stabilizer in and then maybe a canvas type fabric to give it the stability that it needs, but then to make it easier to turn in and out. So what I may do with this, with skirt version 2, is when I get home, that one is actually gathered as well at the top. I think I may take the waistbands off, do the canvas that I'm talking about in the waistband, and then put darts or pleats in the skirt at the top to make it the right size. I did the math, gotta be 6 or 7 times, and it's still way too big. Now, because it's a full circle skirt, basically, in design, I have an advantage in that the worst that's going to happen is it's going to be more flippy flowy, which is wonderful. And then if I do it as darts or I do it as pleats, then I can maybe take some of the bulk out of the top, particularly if I sew the darts and then cut them and press them open. So not sure which way I'm really going to go. I may just make the pieces smaller at the top, but then without going all the way down to the bottom, I'm not sure how that would hang. They're already in wedges. It's a blue fabric with green leaves, and then I have in wedges, and then I have littler wedges that are pink. And then I also put pink as a band in the middle of the waistband. So, not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. But it would be nice to have a little bit less bulk around the waist. I'll probably also shorten them. They're both full length. They're basically, to the tops of my shoes. I originally designed it that way because I never know what it's going to be like in an airplane. And while I can put on an additional sweater if it's cold, you can't add another pair of pants. But what I can do is pull the skirt forward so I'm sitting on one layer of the skirting, and then put multiple layers of cotton on the top of my legs, which will make me be warmer. And then also, if it's hot, I can just take and put those layers and push them over to the sides so that I only have one layer on the top. Yeah, the sides of my legs will get hot, but the fabric's got to be somewhere. I suppose I could tuck it underneath me, but I probably won't bother with that. So I'm thinking cargo with closures means a lot less trouble with pickpockets and that kind of stuff. So that's number 0.1. And then 0.2 with the longer length, I have a lot more temperature control, and I can wear leggings underneath it, so that'll be cool. If I'm going someplace and it's chilly, so I'll have the leggings, which will be about the same. They're fairly heavy duty, so they'll be a little bit cooler than jeans. But when you add the skirt traps heat too. So even with the split, and I know that that's not the same as a full regular skirt, but that'll help hold heat in as well. So I think that that should be good for travel, and these weigh almost nothing. This full length skirt weighs way less than a pair of my jeans does. So it'll take up less space and weigh less. I think it's a win-win. So I'm going to take this one as well. I'm going to travel in part 2, but I'm going to take this one for when we're out and about and doing things, if I don't want to carry a bag. Now, when I'm at the convention, of course, I'm going to have all kinds of stuff, because I'm going to have a table full of things, so I'm going to be taking an extra carry-on bag and all that stuff with me. I can just throw my stuff in there and just wear regular slacks. But I think that these will really help me with all the travel that I have this year, even if it means making some modifications to it. So this is something I spent a bunch of time on. And I didn't finish it at Quilt Camp. I spent all day and didn't finish it because no matter what I did, I could not get the panels to line up. They show you on YouTube. I watch so many people who do circle skirts, and they just lay them all out, and then they mark them, and they cut them, and they come out perfect. And they're like, this is so easy. You just use the calculator. I used the calculator. And nope, could not get them to line up. So, because I was doing quarters, because I didn't have enough fabric to do half circles. So I don't know if that made it. I don't know, but I could not get them to line up. So I was just swearing up a blue streak at Quilt Camp, trying to make it work. But ultimately, I have a functional skirt. There's nothing wrong with the skirt. I just wanted to make some modifications to make it even better. So in skirt part 2, every seam is French seamed. So including the split below the pocket, I think what I want to do next time is actually leave a little bit more of a gap between the bottom of the pocket and the skirt, because it doesn't want to lie as nice as I think it could, because they're right up next to each other. And so I think they're fighting a little bit. I think if I left maybe a 1/4 of an inch between the bottom of the pocket and that seam, that would be better. I also have to figure out where my math went so wrong for my waistband, because I had like an extra 4 or 6 inches on both the front and the back that had to be gathered in to fit, to be even close. Because if my front panel is too big, it's going to completely cover those pockets, and then it's going to do weird stuff where the pocket and the skirt meet. So when you sew the seam on the bottom. So I think I'll just give myself a little bit of extra breathing room there. But overall, yeah, the new one is better. I have regular ribbon as the lacing for the back piece that comes around to the front. And then I have elasticized cord in the back. So the nice thing is that I can just grab it and pull, because I can put it on because it's got plenty of stretch. And then I can just pull the 2 ends that I've knotted separately, pull the 2 ends down and tie it. Of course, there's no reason, and I've had a lot of people who I've watched do this who complain about how hard it is to tie a bow behind your back. Unless you're doing a dress or a pinafore that has an upper body, or pants that have legs, if it's a skirt of any kind, just spin the skirt around, tie it, and spin it back. So I don't understand what the problem was, but that's fine. So I put the elastic cord on there so that when I sit down in the plane, it's got a little extra give, just for comfort, because since I'm going to England from the US, it's a very many hour trip. And so I want to make sure I'm as comfortable as possible, which is also why when I put in the pockets, I put one right under the waistband right here where my credit cards will go, and that one goes sideways. But I measure to make sure that when my phone, passport, and other stuff are in the interior pockets, they're below where my leg bends. So I'm not going to have my phone jabbing into me while I'm just sitting there. So that's an added advantage by having those super pockets, because like I said, the new ones are even bigger, is that I have that extra length and I can put the phone all the way down in, so it's going to be really comfortable. And another reason for doing all of this is that if I fall asleep when I'm flying by myself, I don't have to worry about somebody getting into my bag. Or if I'm going to the bathroom, I don't have to carry a big purse with me, because the only purses I have are big ones to travel. I'm not going to carry a backpack to the bathroom. The bathroom's already small enough. So by having everything in the skirt, I have everything with me. I can just go and not worry about it. And then if somebody decides to riffle through my bag when I'm not around, they're going to be finding stuff from my convention. They're not going to be finding cash or credit cards or anything like that. So that's why I made the skirts. I hope that all made sense. So other than the skirts, I've been working on the UFOs, and which are not the UFOs, I'm sorry, the orphan block things, which some of them have turned into UFOs because there were so many of some of the pieces that I had. So one of the things that I've been doing is I went through the section that had a lot of pieces that we talked about last time, and I've started pulling fabric to go with it. So for example, I have a whole stack here. Let me switch to camera 3. Oops, camera 3. So this whole stack is all shades of brown. There's also a couple of them in here. And on the table here, those are all shades of brown, because I have the quilt where it's they're underneath. You actually can't see them. They're underneath the fabric pile. They're all the brown circles. And so if I just put the brown circles together and I put a border on them, the only quilt charity that I would be giving to for my guild is for kids. And I'm sitting there going, these are just strong brown naturals, but they're not fun. And so I don't think kids when I see them. I think adult male, honestly, stereotypical. So, and please don't ever be offended when I say things like that. I don't mean it in a bad way. There's just more guys that tend to like the earthier tones, etc., than the bright pinks and things like that. Not that there aren't some of every, but in general. So because of that, I'm going to combine the two circle sets that I have and put brown blocker blocks, brown squares in between. And I'm going to use that to make a larger quilt so that that'll qualify for one of the other charities. So that's what that is. So I did that. Plus I pulled out these. Oh, so here's some of the circles. So these ones. But I pulled out these. And what I think I'm going to do is trim them off. And then I'm going to put borders around each block in a bunch of different colors. They're not all 30s fabric. I don't have that much 30s fabrics, but it should be close enough, like dots and things like that, that I get away with it, but they're a little bit stronger, which is kind of the idea. So we're going to have a little bit stronger borders, but it should be fine. I'll be testing it a little bit. So I pulled all the fabrics for those. That's also going to be a larger quilt when it's done. But I've been working on the layout for exactly, okay, how many blocks do I want? Do I want them on point? Do I want them on the square? Do I want to alternate with something else? What do I want to do? So I've taken these oddball blocks that I have, and Now, a lot of the ones that I got from other people, so that's why I have so many of some of them. But I'm trying to put them together into projects. So, for example, here, this bag, it just says project on it right now. I haven't named it. But everything in here is Halloween related. Happily, they almost all have some sort of a creamy background, cream into brown, so they'll go together well enough. But they were obviously from different projects to start with. So, like, I know this is loud and I'm sorry. So like these pumpkins were supposed to go with a quilt that was applique and had flowers. That doesn't have to. So I'm going to be putting this together separately. Once I have my design walls back up, once I've chosen the fabric for the first, I think, 4 quilts I'm going to do. I want 4 or 5 of them ready to work on with you for the rest of the year. So I'm going to, when I have the first 4 or 5 done, then I'll put my design walls back up. Sorry, I've got the quilts done. I want all the fabric pulled for them. Then I'll put my design walls back up and I'll lay this one out and see what I've got, what I'm going to do. I do have some other Halloween-ish, fall-ish blocks that I can also incorporate depending on what I need out of the miscellany that I have. But we've got to wait and see on that one. So this one project is going to get laid out probably in a couple of months. So, for example, I'm not going to do much in the next 2 weeks because I'm only going to be getting home on Monday, a week from Monday, and then that Wednesday is our next get-together. So, given that, I'm not going to have time to do much. Plus, my organizing clients have been packing in my days before I leave, and they always pack in the first days when I'm back, too. We also have a price increase that hit the beginning of the year, and we extended the old pricing for the first quarter for all the older clients. Older as in established, they've been with us for a while clients, versus age, because I have all different ages. But we offered them an additional 3 months before the prices, the raised prices kick in. So they all want to get in by the end of this month as much as they can in order to keep the lower prices. I didn't raise them much. So like my upper level organizers went up $5 an hour, but I got rid of the credit card fee and some of the other fees, so it actually is less to the client than what we're doing now. But when we start getting down into some of the other things, it's a little bit more. So I just give everybody a chance on that whenever I can. So anyway, so I'm doing a lot of organizing. I was there earlier today at a client's. So I like being packed for a trip like 3 days in advance. I'm leaving on Friday. Today is Wednesday. 2 days in advance. And I am currently doing laundry right now for things that are going to be going on the trip. So I'm not really going to get packed until Friday morning, I think. That's when I'm going to be running around like a crazy person with my list. Because yes, I have a list. Trying to make sure that I have all of the things that I need. So because this is England, I have to remember things that I don't normally carry, like the electric converters, because they have different plugs there. You know, that kind of thing you don't generally think about. All has to be thought about. So I have my list. I don't normally carry a passport, for example, but I'll need one there. So there's just a ton of little things that I'm trying to make sure that I'm going to remember and get right. So fingers crossed. But yeah, I'll be packing on Friday. So I'm getting my hair cut, my nails done, packing, everything on Friday. So it's going to be fun. But it means I'm not going to have much time to sew. So there you go. Because I'm having trouble with my hands still, I am not taking needlework with me. I normally do. I would normally have a small container. Do I have one of my travel ones? Don't think I do it. No. I normally have a small project with me. I have one of those chatelaines, which is the pin that has little chains that come off of it, and it holds things like my circular clover thread cutter, a needle case, a light pair of scissors, that kind of stuff. My scissors are super tiny. The blades on the scissors and a rounded tip. So the blades are, I think, a half an inch. You can have like 2 inches or 3 inches on a plane, and they're okay with it. But I'm like, I don't want to have to deal with problems with the TSA, so no. But I normally have, my needle case and some little spools of thread, that kind of stuff. Not spools of thread, cards of thread. If you're new here, way back when I explained how I handle thread, I have a regular spool, right? It goes like this. When it starts to get really low, I spin it onto bobbins, like this. When the bobbin gets really low, I have little cardboard cards that I made. And I just used a wave blade on my rotary cutter. And so I cut the waves in, and then I take those threads and I wrap them around in the grooves there. I put little slits on the end of the card, and I tuck them in there, cardstock. Because then when I travel, I can take 30 different colors in the space that a spool takes up. So it's very, very handy for all those tiny little things. And since I'm often sewing 1-inch seams, 2-inch seams at most, I can get a lot of use out of those little tiny pieces of thread that are left. So that would be something I would normally have with me. If my hands were working, I would have taken the time to do some things with my son's quilt, so I could have done some of the embroidery on the trip. That would have been very nice to have done. Not happening. It's okay. Their anniversary was the 16th. So that's only 2 weeks ago. I have 50 more weeks to make the quilts for them. I told them that I needed at least a year, maybe a year and a half to make the quilt, not telling them I was actually starting it early. So I think they know, knowing me, that I started it early, but I'm a lot further along than I think anybody thought I would be at this point. So yeah, I'm going to miss out on some of that. But that's okay. That's perfectly fine. I still have time. So I will be keeping that for here. Now I am taking a small notepad and some pens and pencils and things. Mechanical pencils, so I don't have to sharpen them, so that I can think more about the layouts or how I want to embroider the different things, maybe make up some sketches, that sort of stuff. So I can still work on the quilt to some extent while I'm there, but I'm not going to have to do a lot that's going to be causing more trouble in my hands. I did find out today I was doing a lot of work with the mouse on my computer, and my thumb really started to hurt. So I'm thinking that I'm maybe aggravating the damage when I use the mouse. So I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do about that. But I'm going to have like 2 weeks of not using a mouse. The computer I'm taking with me has one of those touch pads. So maybe I'll come back with my hands in better shape than when I left. I wouldn't bet on it though, because I'm going to be carrying a lot of heavy stuff around. But it could happen. So there we go. I am going to be driving for the first time on the left side of the road. We're flying into Heathrow, which is on the west side of London. And we're going to the north side of London, where our hotel is. So I'm planning on going around, even if I have to go around the long way. Even if I have to go further out to go up and around. Because I don't want to be driving on the left side, downtown London, which was terrifying when I was a passenger. So I just, the man that took me to the hotel for the conference a couple years ago, Wanted to show me everything as we were going. So we went by Buckingham Palace, we went by Parliament, we went all over the place. But he was doing it at, 90 miles an hour and just flying. And I was sliding around the back of this SUV. It was like, no. But yeah, the traffic was pretty crazy. So I didn't want to have to deal with that. But I do want to drive because I don't want to have to be taking luggage on the train. Because we're coming in, like I said, in London, going to the museum that's north of London, and then I'm going to Manchester, and it would be 3.5 hours on the train from where we're going to be to Manchester, but that's carrying all the luggage and doing all of that too. So I said, no, we're renting. So there should be some fun. So, like I said, not much happening the next 2 weeks. I am going to be going later on the year to Dallas. I may be going to Orlando, Anaheim, Fresno, Austin. There's another one, something more Midwesty. I don't remember. Possibly Chicago. So there could be a lot of use for these cargo skirts of mine. If it's not 1,000 miles away, I'll drive it. Even if it is 1,000 miles away, sometimes I'll drive. I drove to Denver 3 times in 1 year. Because if I'm going to be there with a display table and all of that stuff and books to sell and those kinds of things, it's just so much easier to drive than it is to fly. Because when you fly, you're very limited on what you can have. I do know a lot of places that the first thing they do is go to like a dollar store and they pick up some stuff, or they'll go to a plant place. They'll pick up a plant, which they then auction off at the end or raffle off at the end. Honestly, I don't want to bother. When I enter those kinds of things, I pay very close attention to what the stuff is and do I want it? Because if it's kind of like an then no, I don't bother. I did enter and I did not win. The last convention I was at, somebody built a chocolate tower. As you can probably tell, I like chocolate. And they had like 40 different chocolate things in this tower. And I had driven. So I knew I could strap that puppy into the back of my car and I could come home with it. However much of it made the drive. Sadly, I did not win that one. But there were other people there with things like the plants and that kind of thing. And it was just like, I don't want to take it home and have to water it and deal with it. Or I'm not going to use these things. I'm going to probably wind up giving them to somebody else. Don't even bother taking it. Honestly. Just as a thought, if you ever go to like, so this is, all right, as a professional organizer is why I'm telling you this part. When I go to some people's houses, I know that they've been to the home show every year for like 15 years because they still have the bags that they were handed when they walked in, and they're still populated with the stuff that they came with, but they also have all the things that people picked up along the way, which includes what we call trick-or-treat stuff, which is, stress balls or Band-Aid dispenser. I do a lot of stuff where they're seniors, so they have the Band-Aid dispensers or the life packs or any of these kinds of things. So I watch these people basically trick-or-treat from table to table. Now, those of us with tables will put out a bowl of chocolate or of some other kind of candy, knowing that people will want the candy and come and talk to us. And people don't want to just say, oh, thanks for the candy, grab a handful, throw it in their bag, and walk away. They feel guilty. They'll stand there and they'll talk to you about what it is that you have, which is why we put the candy out, honestly. But it's always surprises me that people stop and they spend their time in order to get the candy. And then when they take it home, they don't even unpack the candy. The whole bag gets stuck somewhere. And either the mice eat it, if there are mice, or it just stacks up. You know, and so there's 10-year-old candy in some of these bags that I'm unpacking for people. So be very discriminating when you go to those kinds of events and only take home the stuff you really are interested in. When you go to a quilt shop, not quilt shop, like a quilt show, that's what I meant to say, where they've got all the vendors and all of that stuff. Stop at the vendors. If you see something you like, you've got to use for, sure, go ahead and buy it. But make sure that you're taking the things that you're going to be interested in opening that bag up later and looking at. We know that there's people who come by and who will stop because we greet them. Hey, how you doing? You having a good day? You can almost see them go, oh God, another one's talking to me. And so they'll come in and they'll take some flyers just to be polite. And so, don't. Just say, doing great, thanks, and walk on by. You will not hurt our feelings. We pay for the marketing materials. So, you're saving our company's money. You're being kinder to the earth, and you're not putting junk in your house you don't want. So, there you go. There's the organizing lecture for the day. Hold on. Now, I did have somebody ask me about the wall behind me, because it had been a while since I had the display walls down, the design walls. So let me show you what's behind me. So I have floor to ceiling. You can see all the way to the ceiling. I have my rainbow of fabric. Now there's fabric behind this one too. Okay, I just didn't take that board down. This is fabric that is a minimum of a fat quarter in size, or quarter of a yard, because some of these are actual with the fabric quarter yards or fat quarters or larger. But there has to be a full fat quarter or quarter yard minimum unbroken in order to be on this wall. So my yardage is in full pieces, in full folds. Let me put a nice big fat one, like this. Okay, so there's a minimum of a full yard of good fabric in this. There's a lot more of that than that, but there's a minimum of a full yard. If there's less than a full yard, but at least a quarter of a yard, it gets folded in half again, and it gets put on the wall. So that's what that is. Behind where you are sitting, I have drawer units. That's not what these are, but let me show you here. Similar to this, right? And that's full of cut strips, blocks, and bricks. If I don't have a quarter of a yard's worth, I will cut it down into strips, bricks, and blocks. I do strips as wide as 6.5 inches. They don't have to be with the fabric, but they have to be at least 12.5 inches long to qualify as a strip. I only do a few sizes of bricks, and then my blocks, I go up to 12.5 inches. Because I'll take the 12.5-inch blocks, piece them together, and they're backing. Or if I need several pieces, like if I need 4 half-square triangles for a block I'm doing, could be the 12.5s are plenty to make those half-square triangles I need. So I do keep them in the little drawer units on the wall behind you. There's a ton of other stuff back there too. Right now I'm looking, I have fabric marking stuff, other tools. I have register tape for like a calculator. I have my binder clips. I have all kinds of embellishment stuff. I've got some painting things. I have markers. I have some projects. I have so much stuff on these walls behind you. There's also a wall over here that has a ton of stuff. And other than the books and the miscellany that's on there, I have drawer units of threads. So there's quite a bit going on here. One of the reasons that I have so much is because back in the day when my company wasn't doing as well, and I was only doing it part-time, and my son was younger, so I had more time to sew because I was with him, I could turn this entire wall every 18 to 24 months. I would use everything on the wall. That hasn't happened for a number of years. I will still occasionally sit down and do, a whole bunch of charity quilts at a time. I do my Stashblaster Quilts, number 1. I do that one a lot, for a couple reasons. First of all, it helps me empty out the drawers when they start overflowing because I've used up all the space I've allotted for that size. The Stashblaster Quilt works with any width of strip. So the drawer's getting full, I can crank out 4 quilts at a time, and just knock them out in a day, and then I have room in my drawers. So that's an option. But I don't do that like I used to. I used to have 100 quilts at a time sitting in the room on the other side of this wall, ready for natural disasters. So whenever there was a hurricane or, unfortunately, war, like in Ukraine, things like that, they were ready to go. They could get boxed and instantly shipped wherever they were needed. So that was something that I always had handy. I have not been doing that for a while. I think I only have like 20 or 25 over there right now. So I'm not turning over the fabric as quick as I used to. And that's a shame. I feel kind of bad about that. But when I was doing this volume of fabric made a lot of sense. The weird thing is that a lot of this was given to me by people who are done with the fabric, with the projects that they're doing, and they give me their scrap. And for some people, yardage is what they call scrap, which I've never understood. But I also found myself with a problem with the quilts that I was doing. I did not want to cut into a fat quarter for a 1.5 by 1 inch rectangle because I wanted those fat quarters. So I went to our free table. Other people gave me things. It was wonderful. It worked really well. But that meant that I was actually doing more laundry and processing for the wedding quilt than I would have otherwise. But I went through my strips and I did what I could with those first. But it takes some time to do it that way. So it was wonderful that my friends stepped up, or there was ones on the free table. And so I will be, one of the things that I do is whenever I take anything off the free table, I bring back at least twice as much for other people. So I've got a whole bunch of stuff ready to go. I was going to take some on Tuesday, but I didn't get a chance, and it was raining and slushing, and I can't wait for this winter to be over. I really can't. I used to live in Buffalo. Moved here. It's 30 years this last January. Because I was pregnant with my son at the time. And we got here just in time for the blizzard of 96. There have been big snows since then, but one thing that makes a difference here to Buffalo is that in Buffalo it's about 10 degrees colder all year round than it is here, which means that the snow doesn't melt in Buffalo. But here it's been so cold that the snow wasn't melting here. And I've just been miserable. I've been whiny. I've been wanting to stomp my feet, which is, completely inappropriate, but I so wanted to do that. So I am very glad that we're warming up again, finally. But we were getting slush on yesterday. Not my favorite. No. Give me mid-spring to mid-fall, fine, I'm happy. Even if it's hot, hot, hot outside, I'm still not as grumpy as I am in the winter. And I think a lot of that's the sunlight. Because it may be hot, hot, hot out there, but at least there's still sun coming through my windows. But it's just been a gray and miserable, yucky, sloppy kind of winter here. No, I don't want it. So, yes, this is me being a little bit whiny. But yeah, if I could live someplace in like low to mid 70s, day and night, I would be great. I've told people I would do wonderfully on a spaceship, where the temperatures are the same all the time, and there isn't any weather. I would be fine if I never had to go through rain. Yeah, that's just me. But anyway, so back to the sewing room. So I am, when the weather gets warmer, another thing that I'm going to be doing is finishing the painting on the room over there. And when I get that painted, a lot of the stuff in here is going to be stored over there because I want to repaint this room. This room is kind of a mossy green, which I thought would be very calming, but it's kind of depressing. I thought it wouldn't be, but it is. So I'm going to repaint this room in the same light blue that I'm doing over there. So unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to do the 3 coats of Kills on this green as well, because it's fairly intense. And then the 3 coats of paint. And because that's what I did on half of the room over there. So I'll have to move the stuff from this side to that side, and then paint this half of that room. Then move these things over, paint this whole room, probably half and half. And when everything's done, then I can actually set the 2 rooms up for different purposes with different things. But for right now, it is what it is. Nothing I can do about that. And I am not willing to injure myself any more than necessary, because injuring myself is kind of my thing, I think. Happens to me all the time. And it's all stupid stuff that I do to myself. So I don't want to injure myself more than I have to over there. But then when this all gets done, then I think that things will be a lot less chaotic than it is right now. I could be wrong. Chaos does tend to follow me wherever I go. It's kind of my thing. But that's okay. So that's another project that I'm going to be doing. I have all these orphan block projects I'm going to be working on. My plan is to work on both my son's wedding quilt and the orphan block quilts when I'm with you. So you're going to be seeing more sewing this year than last year. I'm still going to be yammering as usual. That's what you get, but hopefully you'll enjoy it. And then I would love it if you sent me any pictures of what you're doing with your orphan blocks, because I'd love to share it with other people, because there's pillows, there's totes, there's all kinds of things. Now, my recommendation with orphan blocks is this. Don't take a small block and buy a ton of fabric in order to use that small block. Combine other blocks and then maybe do something, but don't make, a body-size pillowcase because you have a block this big. Especially if you're going out and buying it. If you have it up already, sure, use what you have. But that's one of those things that's like, let's try to be sensible about some of this stuff. I am not buying any fabric for either the fronts or the backs of any of the orphan block stuff I'm going to be doing. Nothing. Zero, zip, zilch. It's a great way to use up your scraps, your extra pieces of batting, backing, all of that stuff, whatever's you're doing. But you can make totes, you can make pillowcases, you can make placemats, you can make mug rugs. There's so many different things that you can do with an orphan block that's just sitting around. Especially if you belong to like a guild and they do any sort of a fundraiser. I showed you these blocks before, but okay, so I have several here that are like bird houses and other houses, right? These would make adorable little mug rugs. Put a frame around them, do a quick quilt, and poof kazak, it's ready to go, and your guild will make some money on it. It's not what I'm going to do with it, but because I have several of them, but anything you've got, you can do something to help your guild out. If you don't have a guild, that's fine. You can still do some charity things. They're make great Christmas presents or birthday presents or whatever. You don't have to go crazy with this. And this project, or these projects, depending on how many orphans you are currently housing, do not have to cost you a lot of extra money. I don't want you to feel that you need to go and buy all of these supplies to make something because you have this orphan block. Because you know what's going to happen? When you're done, you're going to have extras, and so you're going to wind up with more stuff that's not exactly an orphan block, but maybe you don't really need. So just think about that when you're making your choices so that they're smart choices. If you've stuck it out this long, thank you. As always, I would love to hear from you. Mail at stashblasterquilts.com. And yes, that's MAIL at stashblasterquilts.com. Send me photos, send me questions, talk to me by email. That's perfectly fine. I do respond. One of my friends that's on here on a regular basis sent me a cartoon, and it was fun. I shared it with a group that I'm part of. I would love to hear from you. At this point, there's only 58 of you. So if you send me an email, I can respond. If this ever takes off and I can't, I'll still read them. I always read all my emails. So I may not respond to everything later, but we're a long ways away before that's going to happen. So talk to me. I'd be loving to hear from you. All right. We're going to end just a few minutes early today because I don't want to bore you with the same things. So I will probably have a few photos from the trip, but not many, because a lot of the things that I'm going to be doing I've done before on my last trip 2 years ago. But I should have a few, and I'll tell you about the trip when I come back. But I am planning at that point to have things set up enough, hopefully, to be sewing next time with you, okay? So have a wonderful couple of weeks, and I will see you. Let me get the date just so that I have it on here. It's always the first or third Wednesday of the month, from 7 to 8 o'clock Eastern Time. So let me see here. March. Yep, that's today. Yep, on the 18th. So I will see you in 2 weeks. Please take care. If you're getting bad weather, please stay safe. If you're traveling, safe trip. If this is your first time here and the zaniness has not turned you off, please feel free to like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all of that stuff. I do tend to start the live stream a few minutes early, so you have a chance to get settled in advance. I welcome people in the chat, so whatever it is that you would like, please feel free to join me, and I hope to see you in 2 weeks. Thanks, and bye-bye.